Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today and with everyone here together. My name's Nick Valentino. I'm the Vice President of International Strategy at AM Opportunities. And personally, I've been working alongside international medical graduates from all over the world for the past 16 years. I really spent a majority of my career helping international graduates navigate this journey, overcome obstacles, and really make smart decisions to put themselves in a position to be successful in applying to medical residency in the US and really springboarding their medical career. And today we're going to talk about the match timeline. Yes, we're going to talk about the steps and things that international graduates need to go through in order to put themselves in a position to be successful in that match process. Obviously, I'm sure many of you know the match only happens one time a year in the US. It happens every year in March. However, applications are submitted around September. And all throughout the year, there are different checkpoints and things that you want to be working towards to put yourself in that position to be successful and really maximize your chances. So that's really the goal of today. It's to give you as much information as we can, help you understand that process. We see from the chat a bunch of people are applying for the match this year. So they're in that really final stretch, which we're going to focus on. And then we have people that are on different stages of their journey. They haven't taken their USMLE exams yet, and they're planning. So definitely think that you are going to be able to get a lot of value out of this seminar, regardless of where you are in your journey. And again, my goal is to provide support. So I encourage you, don't be shy. Feel free to ask questions along the way. I'll do the best to answer questions as we go, as well as leave time at the end, for questions as well. All right. So let's dive right in. Again, I think for just helpful to, really start with is, why, right? Why should I be pursuing medical residency in the United States? I know, some of you, different areas of the world we have joining us from today. And, there are definitely pathways that I'm sure a lot of you are considering as to what do I want my medical career to look like. There are clear benefits of applying for medical residency in the US, but there's also obstacles, right? And that's a big portion of what we're going to talk about today. Big thing to keep in mind is, though, we need international graduates in the US, and there's a lot of data to really make you optimistic about the next steps in your medical career and the possibility of getting into that residency position. The presentation is being recorded, and we'll share a recording after the seminar, absolutely. So really, why work in the US? Why train in the US? Obviously, it's a chance to train at a high level. So whether you're currently a student or a graduate, one of the things that we're going to talk about today is getting clinical experience in the US, and that's a big portion of what we do at AMO. Like I said, I've been working with international graduates for over 16 years. There has never been a system for where international graduates can regularly gain access into the US healthcare system. And up until the last decade, how international graduates would get access is, and even still, right? I think in a lot of instances, it's sending a lot of emails, reaching out, trying to make connections, leveraging connections at your medical school, leveraging anything that you can do to open up opportunities. And then there has been other ways where certain programs might be offered, but the quality wasn't always consistent, or the access to patient care wasn't always guaranteed. And AMO, over the last decade, has really built a platform where we have over 380 programs that students can choose from to do rotations across a wide range of specialties. And we cater to both international students, but also US students utilize our rotations. We work with medical schools, physician assistant schools, nursing schools all across the US, and they're leveraging AMO as a platform for rotations. But yeah, going back to the benefits, the residency program obviously is going to be that springboard to getting licensed in the United States. And From there, obviously, you have the opportunity to move on to fellowship programs, which many international graduates do, or continue as a licensed physician in the United States. Another big benefit of working in the US is competitive salaries, right? You all right now are investing a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money in your education, in this journey. You want to make sure that that's going to pay off. When you're doing your residency in the US, it's a paid position. Generally, they're making somewhere between $70,000. It could vary depending on the state that you're in, the year of residency that you're in. Some residents are making higher than that. But upon completion of your residency, US physicians are some of the highest paid around the world. So you definitely have that potential to earn, and that's important. And you can see here, primary care on average is making about $265,000 per year once you've completed that residency position. And as I was saying, we need international graduates in the US. I'm not sure how many of you know this, but currently 27% of the doctors that work in the US went to medical school outside of the US. So over a fourth of our doctors are internationally medically trained doctors. And we're facing a doctor shortage in the US, and there's doctor shortages globally, but we're particularly seeing that demand in the US. The American Association of Medical Colleges predicts a shortage of over 124,000 physicians over the next decade. Shortage of primary care doctors and a shortage of surgeons and specialists. We have an aging population in the US. So obviously with that comes an increased need for physician care. And we also have an aging physician population in the US, where a large percentage of our physicians are entering that retirement stage, which then also translates to the need for an influx of new physicians. So both of those are contributing factors to why the US is seeing that gap. The benefit of that we've seen for international graduates is the number of residency spots has continued to increase over the last, years. It's been a consistent, steady increase. We've seen 1,000 more spots added the last 2 matches. Now, we're going to look at some match data. And, I've been immersed in match data for the last 16 years. And there's so many different ways to look at things and understand things. And there's factors behind the factors when you're looking at certain data. So again, you want to use data to make smart decisions and help guide your path, and not necessarily make assumptions, right? A quote that I always like, and it's just random, but it's a baseball analogy from Vince Scully, who's a big baseball announcer in the US. And he says, statistics are like a light post for a drunk man. It's more about support than illumination. And it's true, right? So that you want to be cautious in not fully understanding some data, how trends are changing, because again, it's going to impact your decision. A perfect example is step 1, changing to pass-fail. And we are just in the midst of starting to see how that's going to impact the data and the results and certain factors. And a lot of times people rely on data that's older, or they're getting information from advice from people that have matched in the past couple of years. And we're in this period of change where you want to pay attention to what's most important for me, my application, me to make strategic decisions to open up opportunities for myself. And some of those things are going to start to change. Think about something like the USMLE Step 3, right? I'm sure all of you know international graduates can do Step 3 when you're already in residency, or you can do it after you've done Step 1 and Step 2, you get your ECFMG certification before you apply. The benefit of doing it when you're already in residency is you're already in residency, right? You already have your job. The score isn't so important as much, right? You're just looking to pass. The benefit of doing it before you apply is this is competitive process, right? Anything that you can do to strengthen your application over somebody else is going to help. But it's one of those things where it's not a one-size-fits-all piece of advice. If you took step one, you took step two, you have some clinical experience, and you have some time before you're going to apply, you're probably going to want to take step three, get that a part of your application. There's visa benefits of getting step three done. You're eligible for the H-1 visa. And again, program directors like to see it. If you just finished step two and it's July, should you rush and take step three before you apply and maybe not get a great score and then maybe have that as a hindrance on your application? Probably not. And the reason, right now the data isn't showing that having a step three score versus not having a step three score has that much of an impact. Most programs are not considering step three when they're looking at who are we going to choose for an interview. Does it help? Of course it helps, but not a major part of that interview process currently, right? But we're really just seeing the impact of the step one pass-fail change now. Historically, step one was the most important factor in how programs would decide how to select candidates for interviews and how they'd filter candidates. Now that step one's moved to pass-fail, other parts of your application become increasingly more important that were always important, right? Step two score, clinical experience, letters of recommendation, personal statement, overall picture of that ERAS application. But again, the data will change over time, and you want to make sure you're paying attention as you go to what you need to be doing to really stay above average. The goal is, how do I put myself in a position to get as many interviews as possible? And for a lot of you, you are in that position now where you're getting ready to apply, and everyone needs to understand their application. What are my strengths? What are my potential obstacles? And then what are some things that I'm going to need to do to open up doors for myself? I've worked with hundreds of people that have only gotten one interview and still gotten into residency. And that's going to be a path for some candidates, and we'll talk about that. But you want to make those smart decisions if that's a potential situation where you're seeing where if you're struggling to get interviews, how do I make myself available for interviews? How do I do things differently? And again, that's the goal of what we want to talk about today. And I want to encourage you all, don't be shy. If you have things on your mind that you want to talk about, concerns, we'll get through that. Just some general points, right? Again, I'm sure most of you know all of these things, but things that we're talking about along the way that you're working your way through as part of this journey. ECFMG certification, right? This is really where all international graduates start. You register with ECFMG. You need to register with ECFMG before you can even take and register for USMLE. That's the first step. Once you've finished step one, step 2CK, and taken the OET exam, the occupational English test, you're ready to apply for ECFMG certification. And really, once you're ECFMG certified, you're ready to apply for residency, right? Things like clinical experience, not technically required to apply for residency. You can apply for residency once you really have that ECFMG certification. However, what you're doing is you're completing your ERAS application. And this is really what programs are using to decide who are they going to choose for interviews. So you're trying to really make your ERAS application stand out, strong, well-written, clear. You guys are going to have lots of things you want to highlight, all of your awards, experience, research, opportunities, but you want to really have your application tell a clear story. What are your goals? Where's your experience? How are you going to make that residency program better? And, your personal statement is one part of it. We'll talk more about. I did a whole hour webinar recently on writing your personal statement. So I could obviously talk about it for a while, but is a personal statement going to get you into residency? Most likely not. However, in many instances, a poorly written personal statement can take away interviews. So it's about really, incrementally doing everything that you can to make sure you're putting yourself in the best position. And you don't want something like a poorly written personal statement to be a reason why you're incrementally hurting your chances. So every part of that application is, how do I put my best foot forward? How do I stay organized, focus on what's in front of me, So we're going to talk about the timeline and really make my application as strong as possible so that I'm putting myself in a position to get those interviews. When it comes time to start applying for programs, you have to figure out what programs you want to apply to. Okay, so completed application, you have to do your program research. And this is a critical step. I did another Chitra, absolutely. We can share that as well. Definitely, no problem. You want to use different resources that they have available. It's called Frida is one of them. Another one's called Residency Explorer. This, again, if you haven't taken USMLE yet, should you be worrying about Frida Residency Explorer yet? No, but these are things that you're going to want to plan. Applications are submitted in September, June, July, August. You're getting the final parts of your application ready. Then you're wanting to, okay, where are the programs I want to apply to? First, you got to decide what specialty, and you might be applying to more than one specialty, which is okay. But again, you want your application to have a focus and a story. And then you want to know about the program. You want to know, is this program a good fit for me based on my application? These sites help you identify that. You can go to Frida and look at the dashboard and say, okay, I want to look at internal medicine programs in New York that are at least 75% IMG. Go. And then you're known, okay, this is an IMG-friendly program. And then you could see things like average score. Some Residency Explorer will sometimes show you the demographics of the candidates, where they went to medical school. A lot of different things that help you identify, okay, this might be a program where I have a good opportunity for that interview. Chitra, we'll talk about your particular situation. I appreciate you putting that in there. 61 years old. How will it impact my residency application? And, not going to lie, there definitely are obstacles with candidates that are further away from graduation. But your application is it's a formula. And, you haven't given me all of the pieces of that formula, right? So, again, will there be obstacles to overcome with when you're more than 10 years after graduation? Absolutely. But there are many programs that consider applicants regardless of their year of graduation. That's not even a factor. It's, do you meet the other components of their application, right? So most programs, right, their USMLEs are going to be, we're going to talk about the interview process, the application process, but there is a big difference between someone that is an older graduate that did really well on step 2 and step 3 versus someone that didn't do well on step 2 and step 3. I spoke to a program director once, and he, very IMG-friendly program in Brooklyn, New York, and they were known for having a pretty wide range of candidates. And he said that he always enjoyed having candidates that had more experience, but it came down to the USMLE score for him. He said when an older candidate has high scores, they're seasoned. When an older candidate has low scores, they're stale. So that's a big, something that they're thinking about. It's even more important to be even above average. And the next thing I'll say is sometimes what people get confused with is year of graduation and gaps in your medical training and education. Year of graduation doesn't change, right? And that's something that you are having down on your application. But if you graduated 6 years ago and you've been working as a physician ever since in your country, that's a big difference than graduating 6 years ago and not being connected to medicine in some way since that time. So those are, again, more factors, right? So again, it really is going to come down to other parts of the application. However, when you have an obstacle like that, let's say you failed USMLE 3 times and you're Chitra and you have a higher year of graduation. You have to understand, and sometimes this is a hard thing for people to realize, but once you do realize it, it really makes you more effective in your journey. For some people, it's going to be very hard to get their application looked at if the program doesn't know you in some way, if you don't have some connection whether it's a letter of recommendation, a referral, experience with the program. And that's what some candidates need to do in order to open up that opportunity. And then make, like what I said, going back to that hundreds of people I've worked with that only had one interview, that's how they get that one interview, by networking, making themselves available, showing they're a team player, they're a hard worker, making connections, immersing themselves, and hoping to overcome a part of the application that might hinder their ability to get interviews. So the goal, right? Everybody wants to get as many interviews as possible. The more interviews you get, the better your chances are going to be at getting residency. Some people need to focus on, how do I make connections that can open up a door for a particular interview? And then it comes down to that interview, right? So a lot of what we're going to talk about today is, how do I put myself in that position to get the interview? But then after that, it really comes down to the interview. They asked program directors in a survey, what are the things that you're looking for? And this is going back 2 years now. Step one was still the most important factor. So they're going to do a new survey this year. Can't be the most important factor anymore, right? Step one, step two score, letters of recommendation. That was number 3. Clinical experience, step 3 score. How do you select people for interviews? But then when they say, okay, well, how do you rank people after you did the interview? It's all based on factors from the interview: interpersonal skills, feedback from the residents, feedback from the staff, communication skills. So a lot of what you're doing, how do I get that interview? After that, you want to prepare for that interview. That's why researching the programs matters as well. You want to apply to programs you think you're going to get interviews at, but also you want to hopefully go on interviews at these places. And a big tip that program directors are looking for is, they're not trying to find somebody that just want to be a part of any program. They want to try and find people that want to be a part of their program. And, you go on your interviews, you're going to get asked all these different questions. But one question they always ask you is, do you have any questions for me? And that's the perfect opportunity to show you did your homework about the program, you know about the program, and that's going to cause your name to, again, stick out in their head, which is what you're trying to do in that interview process. And if you just ask a question like, how many residents do you guys have? Well, they're going to know you didn't do your homework about this program. You're not serious about this program. But if you say something like, oh, I see you offer fellowships in cardiology. What do residents have to do to become available for that? That's what my interest is. That's what my intention is. Then again, informed question, showing your commitment to the program, showing your interest, showing your long-term career trajectory, much different question. So spend that time researching the programs, preparing for your interviews. You could go to Google right now and type common residency interview questions. And you don't want to be robotic on interview day, but you want to be prepared. You want to be organized. You want to have things in the chamber. If I were to ask you right now, tell me about a really challenging case that you had to encounter when you were in medical school. You don't want to be sitting there thinking for 3 minutes. You want to have something that you can take from that and spin it and go from there. How did it impact you? And you're prepared for those types of questions. Okay, moving along. Quick data from this year. We saw a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of things to be optimistic about when you look at the residency data. And there's some things that can be misleading. Ultimately, though, there is still a lot of things to be optimistic about. So I don't want to discourage anyone. We're seeing more IMGs match than ever before. And we're really seeing higher success rates in the match than we have in a really long time. Right now, the success rate for international graduates is about 58%. US IMG, 67%, right? So when I first started working with international graduates, 2008, the match rate, I think, was 42%. So again, more IMGs matching than ever before, higher success rates than we've seen in a really long time. These are things to be optimistic about. But then in your head, you could be thinking, oh, well, it's getting easier. And that's the challenging part. It's not getting easier. It's as competitive as it's always been. The doctors that are taking their exams are doing well. They have well-rounded applications. Getting your application looked at and standing out in some instances can be even more challenging, especially considering that step one pass-fail change. And we'll talk more about that as well. What's been the most impactful benefit for international graduates has been the increased number of positions. So when you have these more spots added, it's helping to contribute to a higher success rate, right? Which, again, is a good thing, but it's how do you make yourself available for one of those positions. But ultimately, these are things to be motivated around, right? 60% of the doctors are applying for residency are successfully matching into a position. And just some stats last year, 1,100 more spots added, 1,720 of those were in primary care, 125 more certified programs. That means new residency programs being opened, which is great and very generally beneficial for international graduates. Okay, this is a lot of data, but you could get a quick look at a couple of things. You got US IMGs, non-US IMGs, last 20 years, and you could see the number of people that matched and the percentage. The other thing that you see here is the average length of the rank order list. So the rank order list is you're going to send out your applications, and the goal is to get as many interviews as possible, right? Let's say you get 5 interviews. After the interview, when you enter the match, you have to rank those interviews 1 through 5, top to bottom, where you want to go most to least. And you don't have to worry about, does this hospital like me more than this hospital? You don't worry about that. You just focus on where you would want to go most to least. And then because it favors you. Then the hospital, the residency program, maybe they did 80 interviews for 10 spots. They rank. Maybe they didn't like 5 people. They rank 75 people. 5 don't even get ranked because they don't want them. They'll rank 75 people. And then the match happens, and it fits doctors into residency programs. And like I said, it favors you. So let's say you are applying to more than one specialty. Let's say you want to do surgery, and surgery is more competitive than internal medicine. You could apply to 50 surgery programs and 50 internal medicine programs. If you get 2 surgery interviews and 5 internal medicine interviews, you could rank surgery 1, 2, internal medicine below that, and you enter the match. If you're able to match into surgery, you will. If not, you have the same odds to match into internal medicine. So you don't, it doesn't hurt you by ranking internal medicine lower. You'll match to the highest program on your list that you can. It can be complicated, but pretty simple process, right? Because, hospital ranks 80 people, they have 10 spots. Their number 1 through 10 most likely didn't list them first. Maybe they're below on their list. So they have 10 spots. They rank 80 people. Maybe they go to like number 50 on their rank list to fill their 10 spots because people are going to rank programs all over the place. Okay. But what this is showing you is number of interviews, really number of ranks that people have in the match and what that match success rate has been over time. And you have that US IMGs and non-US IMGs. And, I think again, you go back to when I started, 2008, non-US IMGs, about 42% success rate. We had the highest right around the pandemic. You could see US IMGs and non-US IMGs, it was identical, right? And it's been identical for, last couple of years. 58, 59, 61, 61, 55. After the pandemic, starting to see US IMGs creep up a little bit. And again, still very optimistic for non-US IMGs, but US IMGs, again, creeping up a little, 67 in 2024. So a lot of times people see this and they think, oh, well, it's because of citizenship. And that plays a factor, right? But again, why didn't it play a factor all of these years, really, right? It's again, there's been some historical changes a little bit here and there, but it's always been pretty close. We're starting to see it creep up a little bit. They break up the data by citizenship, right? This is US IMGs, this is non-US IMGs. However, you have to understand what goes into those categories. You could be a US IMG from anywhere, right? You could be a US citizen and go to medical school in Poland or Ireland or anywhere, right? Costa Rica, and you're a US IMG. And obviously, you could be a non-US IMG and go to medical school anywhere, right? But a majority of the US IMGs are medical school in the Caribbean, going to Caribbean schools, which have very similar pathways as US medical schools. They're doing 2 years of basic sciences, and then they're doing 2 years of clinical rotations in mostly US hospitals. So they're getting a lot of US exposure, US experience, letters of recommendation from US physicians. And there's a benefit there. Now, when you look at the USMLE trends over time, again, this is going back years and years, you would always see like the US scores are a little bit more friendly than the non-US scores, right? Maybe the average is a 220 for a US IMG, the average is 230 for a non-US IMG, right, historically. And again, people would equate that to citizenship, but it comes back more to the experience. And program directors, when they see you understand the US healthcare system, you're getting quality as a recommendation, they're looking for people that are going to be a good fit for their program, that are going to show up, work hard, know what they're doing, not have challenges. And when they have that level of assurance and experience, it has a big impact. Now, I think when you look at the data, you go back to 2019, and the numbers are the same, it was very clear that most program directors were going to be more likely to take a non-US IMG from India with a 250 on step 1 than a US IMG from the Caribbean with a 205 on step 1, regardless of those other factors, right? But now that step 1 goes to pass-fail, it becomes harder for some candidates to stand out, to compete with candidates that are getting multiple experience opportunities and exposure. And it's an obstacle, right? And in some instances, again, I'm an advocate for IMGs. It doesn't necessarily promote the best and the brightest, because again, are there benefits in step 1 going to pass-fail? Absolutely, right? Nobody thinks that your knowledge of the basic sciences is going to be that much a complete indicator of your efficiency or what as a physician. But historically, it was the only fair way that program directors were able to differentiate candidates. And again, now other parts of the application, like we talked about, become more important. And you say, well, we still have step 2, but that's the challenging part in that everyone's doing well on step 2. Again, not everyone, obviously. I don't want to it's a very challenging exam. These are the most challenging exams in the world. But the average score for people that are matching and those that are not matching on step 2 are not that different. And remember I said it's not getting easier? Well, that's why it's not getting easier, right? The average step 2 score for an IMG not matching is like 234. In 2008, when the match rate was 42%, 234 was a killer score. So that's why it's not getting easier. Availability is increasing, opportunity is increasing, but it's how do I have an above average application? And in some instances, some people, how do I overcome obstacles as part of my application? Ruth asked if I can explain the surgery ranking again. Basically, again, so what it comes down to is you rank programs top to bottom where you want to go most to least. You don't have to worry about putting programs higher or lower based on if you think your chances of getting into them are higher or lower. So if you really want surgery and you got a couple of surgery interviews, you'd rank them above internal medicine if you had internal medicine interviews, and it's not going to impact your chances. If you're able to match into your top choice, you will, and you keep working your way down that. But here, what you're seeing is the average length of the rank order list, and people that matched and people that didn't match. So, you're looking at non-US IMGs, for example, in 2024, people that matched had about 7 interviews. People that didn't match had just over 3. So again, NRMP says the more interviews you get, the better. It's the best indicator in your success in the match. So Praja asks, so with a non-US IMG with step 1 attempt, what can be done to increase the chances of the match? Well, it's every other part of the application, which is what we're talking about, right? And again, it's going to come down to your experience in your home country, making your ERAS application as strong as possible, the experience you could get, the decisions you make around experience. And we'll talk more about that as well. I know this is a little bit hard to see. I have another chart that's a little bit easier, but this is showing you 2024 match and the results across all specialties. Now, again, not all specialties are IMG friendly. Now we could look, right? Dermatology. The tricky part too, dermatology is not really a PGY1 position. Most people match into dermatology and PGY2, so the numbers are very low. So that's not even a good example. A lot of you could so it's very clear to see programs, total number of positions offered, the number that were filled in the match. And keep in mind, not every position gets filled based on the matching algorithm. Sometimes a spot doesn't get filled. That's what the SOAP is for, the Supplemental Offer and Acceptance Program. The spots that didn't get filled, it's a last attempt to make yourself available for those spots. But you could go down and get an idea of what specialties are most available for international graduates, what the odds are. And here is just a look at the most friendly and available IMG residency positions. So internal medicine by far has the most availability. When you look at it, the two numbers combined, 43% of internal medicine doctors in the US are going to be an international medical graduate starting out in their residency position. Family medicine, next, pediatrics, emergency medicine, psychiatry, transitional year. Transitional year is an opportunity where you get to spend time in multiple departments across a hospital and get a lot of experience, a lot of exposure. You are paid. However, the next year isn't guaranteed. So you'd need to rematch into a general residency in that following year. But if you're struggling to get interviews or make connections or exposure, it's a good way to get your foot in the door and then hopefully match from there. Surgical prelim. So, like I said, some specialties, like dermatology, for example, require a prelim year. So you would do a first year in something like internal medicine or surgery, and then match into a dermatology in your second year. Not very common for international graduates. It's very low percentage. Doesn't mean that it's zero, but it's very low. It's not the pathway for most. Most international graduates are matching into a general residency, which is 3 to 4 years, depending on the specialty. Sometimes it could be upwards of 5. So maybe you'll do 3 to 4 years of internal medicine, and then you move on to a fellowship in cardiology, gastroenterology, pulmonology. Belize asked the difference between a transitional and a prelim. What's the same is they're both a 1-year program, and the second year is not guaranteed. What's different is transitional. You're spending a time through a lot of different departments and specialties. Prelim is the intention to move on to a secondary match. So something like dermatology, for example, or anesthesiology, most is a program where you would do PGY1 prelim year. We got a lot of questions coming in. Why is the US IMG rate so much lower? That's the fill rate. And the reason the fill rate's lower is because it's a lot lower number of non-US IMGs applying than there are US IMGs applying. It's about like, 30% of the total is non-US IMGs versus, US IMGs versus non-US IMGs. So just a much larger number of non-US IMGs, so they make a larger fill rate of the total specialty. Somebody asked about GPA. I've read some blogs on hospital zone exam applications have a GPA below 3. Again, things are changing, right? So with step 1 going past fail, we get a lot of that question of will GPA and your academic transcripts play more of a factor moving forward? Historically, they haven't. It's very hard for a program director to look at a medical transcript for an international doctor and use that to differentiate. For predominantly a non-US IMG program. I mean, think about how many medical schools there are in India. Most program directors don't know the difference between top medical school and bottom medical school. And again, historically, that's why USMLE was so important. It was the only fair way for them to differentiate. Now that's step 1. Could it become more of a factor? Definitely. Where I've seen it used more frequently is, there are certain programs that are only geared to US medical students, and there are certain programs that are really only geared to US IMGs, right? So let's say, for example, a program, they have a good connection with St. George University and Ross University and American University of the Caribbean, and they're going to take a lot of their candidates from those 3 schools. Well, then it's easier to bring GPA in and use that as a differentiating factor. Programs that are taking applicants from all over the world, which many IMG-friendly programs are, harder to use GPA. And in my opinion, I don't see that changing much. If we're a specialist in our country, does it change anything? Absolutely, it changes things. Well, congratulations, emergency medicine specialist. Does it increase my chances to EM in the US? It definitely does, right? I mean, you want to, showing your experience and your exposure in your home country and that you've been connected to medicine since your graduation is absolutely a benefit and one that you want to go through. Nor asked, is child neurology an IMG-friendly specialty? Neurology in general is friendly. I'm not sure how they categorize it separately with pediatric neurology, which I don't know if that's a separate residency program or if you would match into neurology and then it's more of a fellowship in pediatric neurology after that. But as you can see, pediatric neurology is, while it's not a ton of total spots, pretty IMG friendly when you look at the match rate. And I'm going to share all of this with you. So like if anyone wants to look at the data that we went through and all those things, I will share the recording. IMG means International Medical Graduate, anyone that went to medical school outside of the US. US IMG means you're a US citizen or a green card holder. Non-US IMG, not a US citizen. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the calendar, right? And again, we have people all over in their journey right now. I know there are a bunch of people that are really gearing up for the match this cycle, and others of you that are planning further in advance. I've been helping students along this journey, like I said, for a long time. You want to have a plan and you want to be working towards your goal, but you really want to focus on what's in front of you. And, I usually tell people to start with step 1 if they, as a guide, And you could be doing other things while you're still in medical school. You could be doing experience and things like that before you do step one. But ultimately, step one is going to probably take the most amount of time in this journey. So, and sometimes people think they're going to study for step one in 4 months, and it takes them 12 months, unfortunately. And that could be, tough because it could impact your plans. Let's say you're studying and you finish step one and it's today. You're in May. Applications start in September. Are you going to do step two, maybe do step three, finalize your experience, your letters of recommendation, your application by this September? Probably not. So then you're really working towards next September. And okay, I have 18 months to finalize that plan, and you're working your checklist from there. But you want to be organized, and what you're working towards is that September. September, complete application, ready to apply. And that means taking your USMLE, getting the scores back. Generally takes about 3 to 4 weeks to get that score back. Letters of recommendation, you have to get those uploaded by the doctor that you're asking to write. That can take some time. Your personal statement, researching your programs. So all leading up to these months, you want to make sure you're not rushing and then potentially not putting forth your best ERAS application. So in June, the ERAS application will open. And what you get is in your ECFMG application, you'll apply for a token. And what you do is you use that token to open up your ERAS application, and then your ECFMG and your ERAS application are linked, okay? And then you're working to complete that ERAS application. Enter your information, work on that personal statement, scores uploaded, letters uploaded. You have to upload a picture now, a short summary about yourself. These are all newer things. September 15th is when you can start applying to residency programs. It used to be September 15th was when you can start applying, and also when programs would get them. And then everybody would apply on September 15th, and it would always crash. But now, September 15th is the first day you can apply, but programs don't see them until the 28th. So really, like, this 2-week window doesn't matter so much when you get it in, but my recommendation is getting it in by this date. Can you apply after and still be fine? Sure. But the longer you go after that date, the less likely your chances become of getting interviews. You want to, again, do all the things that we talked about, research those programs. Another important part of the match process now that's new is called signaling programs. And again, there's information on I'll give you guys a link that you could Google it, but you type in Google signaling residency programs. The tricky part, every specialty is different in how many programs they allow you to signal. Okay, we're going to talk about the application process more. But what signaling does is, maybe you apply to 100 programs. Signaling allows you to identify, here are the top 10 programs where I'm really interested in. And then that just helps you. And again, you want to research. Don't signal the Mayo Clinic, unless you're amazingly special, right? But don't waste a signal on a program that might not be a good candidate for you or an IMG-friendly program. This is your opportunity to really do your research and signal programs and give your intent to programs that you think are a really good fit for you. So that's a really big, valuable addition they've made over the past year, because honestly, too many people are applying to too many programs, and then it makes it hard for the program directors to differentiate, like we've been talking about. Signaling gives you that little bit of an edge on your focus. Okay, so October through January is interview season. It could vary. Predominantly, all of them are being done in person. Virtually. You're seeing some programs move back to in-person, but I generally find those are more of the US Med-friendly programs because they know the students are here. But again, most programs are sticking virtual. February 1st is when the rank order list opens. So that's when you start to rank all the programs that you interviewed at. March is when the SOAP begins. So on March 17th, everyone finds out if they matched. You don't find out where you matched until the 21st. But on the 17th, you find out, hey, you matched, or unfortunately, you didn't match this cycle. And that's when the SOAP begins as well, because if you didn't match, you have an opportunity to apply for the program that went unmatched. And it's not great odds, but availability. And then on March 21st, you find out where you matched, where you're going to be starting your program. And then you're going to work through the process, the next steps, contract. And then mid-June to July 1st, you start. You start as a first year PGY1 postgraduate year 1 resident in the hospital. And you're thrown right in. You're immersed in it. And most Americans, you're in the hospital, you don't even know the difference between resident, attending, sometimes even physician assistants. Most people are not realizing whether they're a doctor or not. But obviously, I know because of what I do. And just this past summer, my son, who's a little guy, 7 years old, he hurt his wrist. So we had to go to the emergency room. We're getting X-rays, and he was crying. Obviously very emotional for a 7-year-old, and very lovely doctor walks in to help. But I could see we were in August, like it was very August 1st, and I saw on her badge PGY1. So I thought to myself, oh man, this doctor's only been a doctor for a month, and now she's going to be setting my son's arm. But she was wonderful, and it went good. So again, that's a joke in the U.S. If you don't want to get sick in July because you have all brand new doctors in the hospitals. But again, is there a signaling fee? There isn't. You're able to signal as part of that application process. NOR asks you send emails of intent to the programs after applying. It's a tough question. If you have some connection or some reason to send it, I don't think it can hurt. You don't want to be overly communicative, but you also, now is not the time to be shy either. So it's a delicate balance, but I would say generally my opinion is now is not the time to be shy. You don't want to be annoying, but that's the balance. Without question, I would recommend sending a personalized message after the interview, thanking anyone that you met with. And a little tip that I usually tell students is, like, in that thank you email, reference something that you talked about, or something, what the goal is you want your face to stand out, right? So, they're going to get 100 of those emails of like, oh, thank you so much for taking the time to interview me. I really want to be a part of your residency program. But if you say something like, oh, Dr. So-and-so, thank you so much for the time. I really enjoyed our conversation about Indian movies, or, whatever it was, that's going to be like, oh yeah, that was, that person. And again, come rank time, you want your name to be that standout in a positive way. Okay. So really what we talked a lot about is the process, but it's how do I get my application looked at? How do I get those interviews? Now, like we said, the challenging part is the average residency program is getting about 1,000 applications for, on average, about 10 spots. 1,000 applications for 10 spots. They do not have the time to go through every single person's application. Look at your experience, your awards, your research, all the amazing things that make you the applicant that you are. They just can't do that for every person. So what every program does is they set up what they call filters. Now, the challenging part, every program is different. They can set their own criteria to really whatever they want. That's why researching the programs is so important, because you get an idea of what's their baseline, what are they looking for, what are their minimum requirements. Is this a program that is a good fit for me, right? And obviously, like I said, I mean, almost everyone in this room, I'm pretty sure, is an IMG. If a program 0% IMG, it's not a good fit for anyone in this room. If you see a program is made up of completely Caribbean medical students, probably not a good fit if you didn't go to a Caribbean medical school. Sometimes it's hard to get whether or not they're more friendly to older graduates, but you can get that in some instances. You could get, sometimes people have pictures of their residents on their website. Sometimes programs, well, like I said, you could on Residency Explorer see where they went to medical school. You can make connections that way. So you want to research those programs. But they asked program directors in a survey of all of the applications you get, how many of them do you reject versus how many of them do you give a full in-depth review? And you could see it's about half. About half the applications get, unfortunately, what they call filtered out. So this is a good way to really look at the data, right? So like I said, on average, about 1,000 applications for about 10 spots. Then they set up those filters. So a program can say, okay, nobody that failed step 1, nobody below a 230 on step 2, nobody that graduated more than 10 years ago, go. And then maybe the 1,000 applications becomes 435. Then they're going into the rest of the application, looking at your experience, your letters, your personal statement, your research. Then they're deciding who to invite for an interview. And then they're deciding after that how to rank the people they interviewed. So you really have these two big jumps in the application process. First jump, get your application looked at. Second jump, get invited for an interview. Okay? Now, if you are someone that you think might be struggling to make this jump, the decisions that you're going to make are going to be a little bit different than the people that are sort of feeling good about this jump, but are really working towards this jump. Okay? And that's the tricky part, right? I work for AMO now, but I've only worked for AMO for about 6 months. So I'm newer to AMO, but I've been helping students on this journey for a long time. And clinical experience is something that people always are asking about. It's an important part of the process. Now, one of the most important factors. That's why I joined AMO. And, but I would always tell students, my advice would always be, and it's still the same advice, it comes back to your application. Anytime you talk to a new international graduate, they say they want to do experience. Do you have anything at Harvard, the Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins? You don't know how many times over my 16 years, that's the initial questioning you're getting asked. And again, for many years, I worked with students in New York, and I would have students doing rotations at places like NYU and Mount Sinai and really high quality US-friendly institutions. And again, comes back to your application. I would always say, well, why are you doing clinical experience? Are you doing clinical experience to strengthen an already pretty strong application? Well, if that's the case, congratulations, right? That's the goal. And in some instances, I'd probably tell you to go for it then, right? If you can get an opportunity at Mayo Clinic or NYU, make a pretty strong application, look even stronger, rub some elbows with some fancy doctors, great, go for it. However, if you have some obstacles on your application or you are struggling to get interviews, well, then you're going to want to make a strategic decision about networking, experience, exposure, opening up doors for yourself in a way where some other institutions might look good, but if you're not getting your application looked at, it might not lead to the type of networking that you need to open up an opportunity for an interview or that spot. For many years, I was helping students with USMLE exams, and had a student come to me once where wanting to help with step 3. And this is about 5 years ago now, but student didn't do so well on step 1, didn't do so well on step 2, failed step 3, tried to apply, got 0 interviews, didn't match, and then came for help to pass step 3. So I told her, of course we can help you pass step 3, but you're going to continue to struggle to get interviews, right? It's going to be hard to get your application looked at based on programs that don't know you. She had really low scores. She had these failures, and she was a US IMG from India, US citizen, went to medical school in India, very smart student, just wasn't a good test taker. So USMLE didn't go so well. So encouraged her to really do experience, exposure. She wound up doing an observership at a hospital in the Bronx, New York, very large IMG-friendly program in the Bronx. A couple of months she was there, made some connections, showed she was a hard worker. That upcoming match cycle, she only got 1 interview. It was to that program. and she wound up matching into her internal medicine residency. And then she messaged me last July to tell me that she was doing this year as the chief resident of the program. One of, a 40-person internal medicine program in the Bronx, a huge program. So it just goes to show you your path towards success can look a lot different. But once you start that PGY 1 year, it's a clean slate. Your medical career, your medical future is in your hands from there. US medical student, international student, you really have a ton of opportunity, but it's how do you put yourself in that position to be successful, which again, I know you all are working towards. But that's where you want to make those smart decisions. What do you need to do to make your application stronger to help you progress through this journey of getting as many interviews as possible, or in some instances, getting any interview, right? And that's really the goal. And like we talked about, personal statement. Think about, so, assuming, you are less than 5 years out of medical school, you pass step 1, you do above average on step 2, well, then you should be feeling pretty good about making this jump, right? Even less than 10 years. Year of graduation varies, but if you're less than 5 years, above average on step 2, past step 1, you're making this jump. But then it's, how do I get past this jump? Personal statement, right? When they're in this section, they're going really yes pile, no pile. Looking at the application, they pull up Eros, they're going through, they're looking at your picture. Sometimes people's pictures, you can't believe what they pick up, what they put up there. Unprofessional, grainy looking pictures. It has an impact. It might not completely take away a shot of an interview, but it very well may. First impressions are very important in this process. Your personal statement, spelling mistakes, not well written, all the reason they need to put you in the no pile, they're trying to decide who to interview. In this process, though, letters of recommendation are the most important factor. It's where they're showing your experience to patient care, and predominantly what they're looking for is the US healthcare system and patient care. Understanding patient care in the US, electronic health records, getting letter of recommendation from a US physician showing your connection to the US healthcare system. And letters of recommendation from home country are okay, but they are predominantly looking for our 2 to 3 letters of recommendation, preferably those from US physicians, and at least one in the specialty that you're applying to. We're getting a lot of questions, and I know, I'm sorry, I'm moving quickly. I'm trying to give you as much information as we can, and we're already over time. But we're just going to keep going. I appreciate everybody that is sticking around. I don't have anywhere to go, but we'll try and continue to move through quickly. ROL's rank order list. All the places you interview, you rank. If I were a program director, what would I think about telerotations? It's a great question. If you asked me that question 5 years ago, I would have said, waste of time. Ask me that question today, it's a completely different story. And that's not just because I work now at AMO, who does provide telerotations. It's because telemedicine is booming in the United States. 5 years ago, I'd never had a telemedicine appointment. Today, I've had several, and it's a regular part of my patient care experience as a US patient. Prior to the pandemic, less than 50% of medical schools in the US had any type of telemedicine training as part of the curriculum. Now over 90% of medical schools in the US since the pandemic have maintained telemedicine as a required part of the curriculum or an elective. I would see it as valuable. It shows programs that you are embracing that technology, that you're getting exposure to patient care in a virtual experience, communication skills even more important in a telemedicine rotation. And, for everybody, it's not easy to travel and make these available. It's getting a letter of recommendation without having to travel and still making connection to a US physician and US patients, big opportunity. Okay, just some quick stats here. This is from the 2022 match. They give this every 2 years. So even things here are going to be a lag in their impact, right? This is people that apply 2022 match. They only release score data, or historically, I don't even know if they're going to do it anymore, have released score data every 2 years. But generally, you'll get something like this in a new report this year. But you see the number of people that matched, the number of people that didn't match, And you could see some factors. Contiguous ranks, continuous ranks, rank order list. On average, like we said before, about 7, about 3. Number of specialties ranked. You can see about half the people are applying to more than one. A little bit less than that. Average USMLE score. Now, again, keep in mind, the last couple of matches, a majority of the people still had a step 1 score. It's not till this year where a higher percentage of the people are applying with just a pass-fail on step 1. So that goes away, and then you have step 2. And this is what I was telling you before. Average step 2 score for non-US IMGs that matched, 243. Average for those that didn't match, 234. So that, remember, it's not getting easier. That's why it's not getting easier. So you have to score above average on step 2, but then what else do you do to really stand out? Experience, exposure, research. AMO does help with research experience opportunities as well. Program directors listed the letters of recommendation as the 3rd most important factor in how they decide who to choose people for interviews. So I'd say it's, other than USMLE, letters of recommendation are the most important factor. Okay. Moving along, we'll try and get through some information, and we'll get through as many questions as we can as well. This is for the program director executive survey as well. Again, this is going to change because step 1 changed, but do they consider USMLE as part of the process? Gray, do not consider. Prefer, but do not require a target score. And I'm colorblind, as you can see. Charts like this are a nightmare for me. This color and this color, for me, are almost identical. Isn't that weird? But you guys get the gist. You guys are better than me. You can see here, almost no programs require a target score for step 3. Some of them are considering it, the exam, but as of recently, 62% of programs not even considering step 3. Just some more data around 2.8. Here, on average, the number of research experiences on an application. So on average, people that matched listed on average close to 3 research experiences. But you can see it's not always quantity over quality. The average for those that didn't match listed 2.9. So I'm sorry, it's not always quantity over quality. They're really looking for quality. You can list a million things, but they're really wanting to see, what did you get out of it? What's your contribution? And that's why you want to really be strategic with your ERAS application. Just another interesting thing. There's so many things that you could get from the NRMP data. This is not a lot of helpful information, but I'm going to give you links. A lot of people ask about specific specialties. If you Google anesthesiology, NRMP data, it comes up, and you're able to, and I could show you these things on Google right before we finish as well. But just getting things. And this is from survey, so there's some variance in this, but race of people. This is US IMG and non-US IMGs. I took out US medical students. Percentage Hispanic, disabled, right? There's a growing importance in the US, and I think obviously should be everywhere, where we're a very diverse country, and patients deserve to see representation in physicians that represent themselves, right? And that's important. And I think that it's important that we're monitoring that and we're promoting diversity. And and that's really been my career, has been helping to support international graduates from nearly every part of the world in, making decisions that help advance their career. And again, a lot of things to be really optimistic about. Okay, these are just some helpful links. And again, you go to Google, but ECFMG, ERAS, NRMP, NBME, a lot of free USMLE exams. But this is where you're going to be able to stay connected to the data, the insights, the trends, a lot of things that we've been working our way through today. Okay. Going to give you a really quick spiel on AMO. Anyone that has questions on AMO, again, now's the time. Don't be shy. But I'm going to go scroll through and try and get to as many questions as I can that warrant answered. AMO, we simplify access to clinical rotation. Really what AMO is, we're a network that fits trainees with trainers. Really, what I like to tell people is AMO is very similar to Airbnb for clinical rotations. And we work with both students and graduates. We work with medical students. We work with nursing students. We work with physician assistant students. And we create opportunities for students to get real world exposure, experience, connections in a personalized way with a US physician to strengthen their residency application and really get a quality letter of recommendation. And why do clinical experience? Well, the whole presentation we talked about is about standing out in that application process. Build your resume. And this is, we work with some students, right, that are not applying for residency, right? We work with students from Spain that are just doing a rotation in the US as part of their medical school because it's going to make their CV stronger. But a lot of the international graduates we're working with it's for that pathway to residency and to make that residency application stronger. It's a good opportunity to practice your medical English. Understand healthcare terminology in the US, electronic health records. Again, the goal being get that letter of recommendation, which is what we support at AMO. Expand your network. This is critical, right? You might be targeting certain areas of the United States and you want to build your connection, your network. Getting experience in that area is critical, right? You're making those connections. Doctors have affiliations with these hospitals, with these programs that can help springboard the next step for you. And for many of you, we work with students and graduates. If you are a student, many of schools will allow you to utilize an AMO rotation for credit as part of your medical school. So if you have electives that you could do outside of the country, you can get that US experience, get that letter of recommendation, and also, two birds with one stone in the, make that a check mark for your medical school as well. And like I mentioned, third most important factor in the residency process. Just some quick facts about AMO. We currently partner with about 150 medical schools, both in the US and around the world, to leverage our platform to provide rotations to their students that they can plan in alongside their clinical calendar. Last year, we trained just over 1,500 students through a rotation with AMO. Right now, we have about 380 programs across 70 specialties. I'm going to show you our platform. I'll show you what everything looks like. You'll see two types of platforms for international graduates on our platform, hands-on and observerships. And again, I've been getting these type of questions since the last decade. And AMO really tries to be very clear and provide students with the best guidance for their application. As a graduate, and one of the things that you'll see is there isn't a lot of regulation over what someone may call a clinical experience in the US. I've seen organizations use, a dozen different terms: clerkship, externship, internship, observership, preceptorship, rotation, right? All of these different things, and there's some ambiguity state by state. Technically, as a graduate in the US, you're not able to do what they consider hands-on rotations. Hands-on, consider those 4-credit rotations. That would be what you're doing alongside medical school. But then there's a lot of misconceptions around, well, what is an observership? An observership is not you with your hands in your pockets. An observership is exposed to patient care, exposed to electronic health records. You're allowed to do things like history, physical exams. You're just limited to your scope of practice when you are a graduate immersing yourself in the healthcare system. And there's implications on your license. You don't want to be broadcasting that you're doing a hands-on rotation when you're a graduate, because that's legally not allowed. So when you'll see on our platform, hands-on and observership, think for student, hands-on, observership for graduate. Same program, same level of experience, exposure. Students are getting a more closer program. That's what they would do as a rotation in medical school. What are the benefits of AMO? Well, really, it's the guaranteed placement that you're going to be able to find a program that AMO is an open marketplace. You know, if a medical school contacts us, they can take a rotation on our platform, but a student from anywhere can take that spot just the same. Whenever they're ready to reserve a program, they're able to, and they're able to take that spot, and we guarantee that spot with one of our preceptors. We have an entire team that supports you with every step of the process. Application, there's immunization form that you have to fill out. You'll have to upload your CV, basic things, but things that will work with you to make sure you're confirmed for your training. And the benefit is standing out in the match, right? Earning a high quality letter of recommendation that you can make as part of your match application, so that you're putting yourself in a position to advance your chances in residency. So what does AMO provide? Like we said, the over 350 options to choose from, wide range of specialties and locations all across the US. But really, it's 4-week rotations. We have blocks of 4 weeks where you could find a program and reserve that spot with one of our doctors. And you're getting a really personalized experience. Most of our programs you're going to find are a 1-to-1, maximum of a 1-to-5 student to doctor ratio, where you're getting a very personalized experience with that physician, immersing yourself alongside their patient care journey. So big thing is just being organized and planning ahead. If you need a visa, well, that's going to take time for some countries. Some countries it's longer than others, right? So that's a thing that you're planning for. If you don't need a visa, well, then you're just thinking about finding a program. Maybe you have to plan travel. Maybe you have to plan housing. Like I said, the immunization form, that could take a couple of weeks to get finalized. So you want to be organized, plan early, find the program that's right for you. But AMO can help you find the program, reserve it, plan far in advance, and then work with you to finalize all that you need to lock in that rotation. We have an entire team of advisors. So if you need help in deciding what program is good for you, am I eligible for this program? Any questions about the program? Requirements, maybe your school needs you to fill out a form, anything like that, our advisors are going to work with you and help you confirm the program as the best fit for you. The visa that you would use is a B1 visa, tourist visa. You're allowed to do medical rotations as a student or a graduate on a B1 visa for up to 6 months, but more than 6 months, but up to 6 months. After you reserve a program, then you're going to work with our visitor experience team, and they're helping you confirm every part of the process. Application requirements, the visa support, they give you a visa support letter if you need it. These are just some things that they're working with you on. Your CV, like I said, the immunizations, and health insurance while you're traveling. You have to submit a Dean's letter. You have to confirm English proficiency. There's no set, if you have a TOEFL or an IELTS score, awesome. If your medical school was taught in English, that counts. If you have a one-on-one conversation with the advisor, that counts, and they see that you speak English. So very easy. We just have to make sure your English is proficient and help you with that visa. Or if you're a US citizen, then you don't need a visa. Big thing with the visa is just being planned, right? Some countries, you can get an interview appointment in 30 days. Some countries, it's unfortunately a year. So you want to plan out and be organized. You can get that interview, be successful, and be ready to start your rotation. So we got some questions about this and covered this already, but AMO offers a wide range of in-person opportunities, but we also offer virtual rotations. We have virtual telemedicine rotations, and we have research, and we have virtual research as well. So think of virtual telemedicine like telemedicine, interacting with patients in a telemedicine situation. And then we have research, where you get to work alongside physicians and join in on research projects, have the opportunity for publications, and we have those options in person as well as virtually. So how do I get started with AMO? It's very easy. I'm going to pull up our website and I'm going to show you. So first, I'll put the link in our chat. Everyone can sign up when they are ready. You create a free account. And once you create a free account, you're able to log in. Log in. And once you log in, you're able to search our platform of programs. You could sort by a variety of different factors that I'll show you. You can look at by, and you can see right now, 388 programs to choose from. Once you could look at by specialty. You could look at by location. You could even pull up a map if you want to like scroll into a particular, I have family that lives in San Diego, what do we have? Or you could just do it by the filter here, even down to city location, certain tags. You might want to look at last minute, like maybe you're looking for a program that can take students next month, and some programs will still do that. Some programs have more of a requirement. And then you'll see different types as well. So like I said, hands-on, observership, research, virtual research, and also down by month. And you can scroll down. There's a lot of information that you'll see about the program as you scroll. You'll see the price. Prices can range on average from about $1,700 upwards of close to $4,000 for a 4-week rotation. And again, it's really dictated by the site that we're working with. They're setting the pricing as well as the specialty, the competitiveness of the location. But generally, you're going to be able to find a lot of programs in the $2,000 to $2,500 range. And you can see a lot of information, psychiatry, price. You'll see the number of seats offered. And you can see here, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3. That's the total number of spots available per month. So this particular program, right, orthopedic surgery, 1 student per month maximum. You're not going to be there with another student. You're going to have a personal experience with that physician. And you can sort, right? So let's say, hey, I want to do cardiology, and I have family in New York I could stay with. Let's see what we have. So with 4 programs available for cardiology in New York, you could find, a bunch of different information. And then you click into the program and you can learn more. You'll see details about the program. You'll see the affiliations of the doctor that you'd be working with, general expectations of the program, what you're expecting to see, how you're evaluated, schedule of the program. It's a newer program, but if most programs, when you scroll down as well, like you can see too, the schedule 10 to 6 every day, you'll see reviews of other people that have done that program and what they had to say about their experience. That's always really helpful. Is it a good fit for you? And then when you're ready, you decided a program, hey, I'm interested in this program. Okay, I want to do an observership at this cardiology clinic. And then you can look at the availability. So we can see for this program, right, June, July are already booked. August, September, they're available. So I can say, okay, I want to go to this program in August. Apply now. Applying is free. It doesn't cost anything to apply. You can apply. Our advisors are going to see, hey, I applied for this program, and they're going to follow up with you on next steps. Now, you can see here, I applied to this program. It says this program requires additional approval. Please email advisors. And you certainly can, but our advisors are going to email you right away. And it looks like here, this program wants to review your CV or your dean's letter prior to accepting, which generally takes about 24 to 48 hours. It's a very quick process, but you can see, and then you apply, 24 hours, you're approved. Some programs you apply to, based on your application, and many of our programs, let me find another one, I'm pretty sure this one, like this cardiology program, I already completed my profile when I create my account. I say what type of student I am, I'm an international medical graduate, I apply to this program, and it's going to say, great, you applied. Our advisors are still going to review the application. They're going to confirm with you, but I'm already accepted. I can go ahead and pay and reserve this program. And what you have to do to lock in the program is pay $9.99. That's your deposit amount, but that guarantees the spot. It comes off of our site. You're confirmed, you're reserved. You work with our doctors to finalize your, our experienced team to finalize your application, your immunization form, your requirements, and confirm you before your start date. And you pay your balance 30 days before your start date as well. I mentioned everyone, if you joined late, we created a coupon code for everyone joining, May Webinar 300, and you could save $300 off any program that we offer. So you see here, enter that code. I'll put it in the chat as well. It's valid through the end of this month. You could save $300, but you could plan your rotation up to 2 years in advance. But if you're you're ready to plan a program, you could take it. Lubna, no. That's the total price of the program. So total price is $2,599. You get a $300 discount. Your balance would be the $1,600. And you have to pay the $9.99 deposit, but the discount will come off of your balance. Okay, and then once you apply to a program, your application will be accepted, and then you're uploading all of your documents directly for your advisor right through here. It's very simple to do. Advisor's going to get that. They'll confirm it. They're confirming all your documents. Go into my documents. Everything will be listed here. Your CV, your passport, your dean's letter. You see here on our site, there's an opportunity to check visa wait times if you're unsure. You can schedule a call with one of our advisors if you have a question about finalizing your application. I'll give you guys that link as well. So I would encourage you, create your free account, check the platform, find programs that might be a good fit for you, and then speak to our advisors about it. See if you have any questions. They'll help you confirm any details that you need about the program and help you lock in. Okay, so I'm going to try and go through as many questions as we can. I really want to appreciate everybody for their time. I know that we went 90 minutes, which is a long webinar, but I hope that you got a lot of valuable information out of the seminar. AMO, we're here to regularly offer this advice and guidance along your journey. We regularly offer these type of webinars where we're giving different support. I will share with everyone a recording of today's session, as well as additional information, the coupon code that you can use. And I'll give everybody my email as well. You always can feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you have. Thank you all so much. I'm going to stop the recording.